Bob loved Torah. He came from a limited background of learning, very limited. And then it prospered and flowered. Not only this shul, which stands right here, which is primarily through the good graces of Bob and Jerry. Not only this, but they have given support for Torah on all the levels that we can find. Bob would sit with me and learn, would call me, ask me, can I get together with you? Can we learn together? And we would sit. We met frequently at my son's house across the street here. And he would come and we'd learn the parsha together, and he would express Divrei Torah on his own. He had an insight and a feel for Torah, for Yiddishkeit, for mitzvahs, and Maaseh Tovim. His luggage is packed full. He carries a big bag of mitzvahs with him. And that is beautiful, because when he comes there, they ask whether he did such and such in life. He has the opportunity to open up the bag and show him, these are the things that I did. These are the things that he would never say it over here, but he will say it over there. Over there it is known what Bob meant to this community, what he meant to his family, what he meant to me personally. Jerry, I hope you hear me, but you have been a pillar of strength. You have been with your husband constantly, seen him through all of these phases of a dismal disease, and came out of it strong. You appeared cheerful with him. You appeared hopeful with him. You gave him every bit of hope that he would make it. And he was so wonderful when we talked to him, when we learned together. There was never any discussion about disease, any difficulty. It was constantly, he was interested in what we were learning and what we were doing. And you know, when it comes a time to say goodbye to a friend, I'm reminded of a story in Tanakh. It's worth repeating this story. Eliyahu Hanavi, the great prophet Eliyahu, who comes to visit us at the Sidorim, who helps us out in times of trouble, who never died, went up into heaven alive, was the greatest prophet of his time and of our time. He worked in a period of difficulty against a wicked king and an even worse queen, Acha ben Izevel. And he fought them and had the courage to stand in front of them and beat them down and make them understand that they were doing wrong, when idol worship at that time was prevalent, even among our own people. And when his time came to pass, he was together with his disciple Elisha, and they were on the road walking together. And Elisha turned to him. He knew he was going to leave him. And he begged him, he says, you're going to leave me. Who is going to help me? I need the strength that you've had. Pishnayim ruchacho alai. I need a double portion of the strength that you have in order to survive in this world and to lead the people properly. And Eliyahu answered him and said, very strange thing. He said, if you'll see me being taken away from you, then you'll have it. You'll have that double portion of strength from me. I wondered about that so long. What was so important about Elisha seeing Eliyahu being taken away from him? But when you look at the words and try to understand it and translate it with a little bit of a turn, doesn't only mean if you'll see me when I am being taken away from you, but it also can mean if you will see me when I am already away from you. If you look at me and try to remember what I stood for, you try to remember how I handled difficult situations, how I tried to lead my people, if you will keep all of these things in mind, you will make the right decision. You will see me, Lukach Me'eta, if you will see me when I'm taken away from you, and I'll come to mind and you will say, what would Eliyahu Hanavi have done at this time? What would be my answer? This is an important thing for us to remember. And as he got done talking to him, a chariot of fire came down from heaven, swooped up Eliyahu. Eliyahu Hanavi went up into heaven alive. And there stood Elisha crying, Ovi, Ovi, Rechav Yisrael, Upalashov. You are the artillery, you are the strength, you are the force of the Jewish people. Where are you going? Why do you leave me now? And as he looked around, he noticed that the Aderes Eliyahu, the cloak that Eliyahu was wearing, had dropped to the ground. He picked it up and put it on himself, and he became the prophet, the Eliyahu of his time. I'll mention this to you because so many of us want to know, what is it that we can do to keep the memory alive? What is it that we can do to emulate the things and personify the things that he stood for mitzvahs and masim tovim? What is it that we can do? The answer is, stop and think for a minute when you make a decision and say, what would Bob Fink do in a situation of this sort? Somebody needs some help, whether it be financial, physical, whatever it might be. If an institution is a worthy institution and deserves support, what would my father do? What would Bob do at a time like this? And if we follow our life in that particular pattern, I'm sure that this will be a big schus for the neshama. I want to take this time, I want to beg mechila from Bob. Listen here, Bob, if there's any time that I didn't treat you with proper respect, with proper love that I have for you, I beg that you forgive me for it. In Yiddish we say, we hope, as I got the better from Solomon. What does that mean? Where he's going, we hope he will be a very good representative, will carry our message and plead our case before the Almighty, so that we might enjoy good health and nachas, that we may see the Fink family grow in strength, and that they will come from here with determination to continue the pattern set for them by their father, by their husband, by the uncle, by the grandfather that he was. If we follow that pattern, he will surely be remembered, and his ma'asim tovim, his mitzvahs will continue on for years to come. I pray that the family will have the courage to overcome the pain and the difficulty of this particular moment, and carry away with them, rather, the inspiration that a life beautifully spent like his, where a man who with a limited Torah background worked it in such a way that he and his lovely wife have grandchildren, they're all B'nai Torah, Baruch Hashem. The entire family, all the children in Eretz Yisrael and here, are B'nai Torah, and they're Shomrei Mitzvahs and Masim Tovim. There's nothing greater to say about a person than that particular item. When a person brings his children up in a certain way, where he knows that Torah, that the Shalshelis of Torah, that the chain, that the tradition of Torah will continue with his family, he carries the right baggage with him. I pray that the Heid Nishmas Yitzchur B'Tzor Chaim, that his soul will be bound up in the everlasting bond of life, that he will be great interceder in behalf of all of us.
Mike Stein to come with us in a Perek of Tehillim.
V'chtam LeDavid Shamrini El Kichosi Siba Chamak Ladinoi Adonai Ato Toivosi Baal Alecha V'doi Shemashe Barotzema V'atirei Kolchem Tzivom Yirbu Atzvoisum Achem Aharu Ba'asich Nizkei Midom V'aleso Eshmoisum Alsposo Adonai Menos Cholchi V'choisi Ato Tomich Garoli Chavolim Naflu Libanim Afnach Alos Shakoloi Avarechas Adonai Asher Yotzoni Afleilos Yisrunim Kiloso Shivis Adonai Lenegdi Samid Kimi Bal Emoid Lochein Samach Libi V'Yogyach Voidi Apsari Yishkon Lavet Achilois Azov Nafshi L'Shor Lois Yitein Chasidcho L'Roshochas Toidieni Yorachayim Sovas Mochois Esponecho Li'imois Bimi Nechonetzach.
6 years ago, we did a program here in Shul. I don't know how many of you remember it. We called it the Kinyan Torah Project. We did it during the Sfiras HaOmer. Every day during the Sfiras HaOmer, we had a different member of the community record a video teaching about one of the 49 ways that the Brisa of Kinyan Torah at the end of Mishnah Avos says that the Torah is to be acquired. In each of the 49 days of the Sfiras HaOmer, we sent out a short video clip of a different of our members teaching about that particular method of acquiring Torah. The 6th day of the Omer, we got a teaching from Dr. Bob Fink, a recording that we still have, in which Dr. Bob Fink taught us about Yiras Hashem, acquiring Torah through the fear of God. As a trained psychiatrist, he probably knew a thing or two about fear and dealing with it. And 6 years ago, he taught us the following. These are his words, not mine. All of us are familiar with the story of the Wizard of Oz, where there are 3 characters. Each of the characters are looking for a specific quality. As you will recall, one is looking for heart, one is looking for a brain, and one is looking for courage. And each goes through fears in order to find each of these qualities they are looking for. And yet as the story goes on, we find out that the wizard was nothing. And the 3 characters each had those 3 qualities the whole time. But what blocked them from being able to access those qualities of courage, or heart, or a brain, was the concept of fear, which stopped them. That's what Dr. Bob taught us 6 years ago. In retrospect, I find his teaching to be incredibly insightful into his own personality. And to be honest with you, I find them to be slightly prophetic. I'll try to explain both the insight and the prophecy. The insight is easy. The prophecy, maybe not as much. First, the insight. I don't know if the Wizard of Oz was something that Dr. Fink referenced often. Was it, by the way? Yes? No? No? Okay. I don't know if it was. I don't know if he particularly cared for the script. But these 3 characteristics of the brain, courage, and the heart perhaps described him almost perfectly. Dr. Fink was a very smart man. He certainly had a brain. By all accounts, he was a very good clinician. A psychiatrist by trade, he was very good at what he did. And he was very accomplished. He was a Falk Fellow. If you don't know what